All right, we have our good friend, Mr. Jake Crain. The JBoy is in the house. Mr. Crain, what's happening, my man?
Hey, man, just excited to be here. Was pumped when you asked me to come on, and had Gonzaga -4 at halftime, and they blew that out of the water, buddy. So that bank account's going up. Let's just hope Michigan can cover the -6 tonight, because we're hotter than Hansel at the Male Model Awards right now.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. So listen, when people go on streaks, like I'm not a huge bettor, but when people are on streaks, I ride the streak, right? So when you make your picks Friday, I'm texting all my boys, hey, give me this, and so one of our buddies who listens to your show says, hey, I've listened to this before, or I've heard this before. Wait a second. And then he sends a link of your show. He said, you can't do that. I'm like, yes, I can. I can do that. We got to make money. So yeah, Gonzaga's up, and that's big. JBoy, I gotta mention this to you because I saw a tweet earlier from you today, and you talked about pro days that are happening, and that a lot of quarterbacks are doing throws against pressure, and everybody's like, oh my God, look at him throw the ball 51 yards. It's unbelievable off platform. And I'm with you as a former collegiate guy who played the offensive line. It really sits back to me. It's like, man, do we really want that? Are you with me on that boat when we talk about, hey, do pro days really mean a lot outside of just timing, numbers, verticals, and stuff like that?
No, I'm with you 100%. And again, you know how it is. I mean, look, it's almost like if I wanted to judge a basketball player by how many shots he can make in pregame warmups when nobody's guarding him. I mean, that's not the real thing.
Right.
You know, when I look at it, the 40 times, that makes sense. Get in the vertical for most guys, that makes sense. A lot of the combine stuff. But listen, if we're going to run around in skirts and throw the ball around, well, heck, I can do that. I may not be able to throw it, 51 yards rolling to my left. But if nobody's pressuring me again, I think these days are overrated a little bit. Those guys are looking at the game tape. And I said game tape, not highlights films. And I think people fall in that trap in recruiting. A lot of coaches do as well. They say, all right, well, I'm looking at this highlight film, and I'm going to make my decision based off that. Well, everybody's highlight film looks good. How does your game tape look? How do you play every play? How do you come back from a missed tackle at defensive end? How do you come back from a bad run at running back when the offensive line isn't blocking? Are you picking your guys up? Are you taking a play off? So I'm with you 100%, Blake. And I think anybody that really goes, if anybody is making a decision and spending that amount of money off watching a guy run around with no pressure and throw the ball, you shouldn't be in that job. That decision should be made off game tape. Now, there's the only reason I would put any emphasis on this if maybe there was an injury or a guy's coming off, maybe a labrum, maybe he had a pec, maybe he had a rib, something like that, and you want to make sure he's got that full range of motion, he's able to get that ball out to the field, he's got zip on the sail to the field, which is an NFL throw, that whole shot versus cover two and stuff like that. So I'm with you 100%, brother.
Well, and you make a great point there at the end, kind of like Cam Newton. Remember, Cam had the little scope on his shoulder when he went to the combine, and then he just ripped it like Cam does.
Trevor Lawrence.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, and I was wowed a little bit. I did say good googly moogly to Justin Fields running the 4.44. Okay, I was like, okay, damn, that's impressive. I wanted to see that. But I'm right there with you. When we talk about this process and we talk about guys moving on, that means that a lot of the SEC teams had a lot of departures, right? As we look around the SEC, and I know that you've been making your rounds around the SEC, what have you learned in your show, talking to others? Is there a sleeper team that you might see in the SEC coming up this fall?
It's a great question, and we all know it's a crapshoot right now, but I look to the East, and I'll be honest with you, from what I've heard, and I don't want to be too preliminary, but they carted Jermaine Burton off the field today at Georgia. They already lost George Pickens to an ACL. But I still think it's Georgia and everybody else in the East. But I really think Florida's going to take a step back. I'm not nearly as high on Emory Jones as everybody else is. Dan Mullen's really good at adjusting to his personnel. I love him as a play caller, especially on third down. But watch out for Kentucky and Missouri in the East. Not that I think they're going to knock off Georgia, but I think they have a chance to finish higher in the East, maybe even second. I tell you what, Mark Stoops, somebody whispered in his ear that I guess they can throw a forward pass now in Lexington, and I bet they're pretty excited about it now that he got that news. But he has built that team from the inside out. I think up front on the offensive line and defense line, and you know this, Blake, that's where the game's won and lost. There's a bunch of good skill players out there. Some are elite, some are not, but there's guys in the Sun Belt that at the skill position that can go play in the SEC and be fine. It comes down to the big uglies. I love what Drink is doing at Missouri. I thought the way he handled freshman quarterback Connor Bazelak last year was really good. I love what he does formationally, love what he does motion-wise. So I'm really looking at that second and third spot in the East. Wouldn't be surprised to see Florida finish third or worse in the East. I look at the West, and I think everybody keeps saying, listen, we all know what Alabama is, okay? We all understand that. But I look at Texas A&M, and everybody says they're going to take a step back after losing Kellen Mond. Well, I don't think Jimbo trusted Kellen Mond to make the throws at the end of the game. You look at some of those games. We can go down the list of the big interceptions he threw late in the game. Not really last year, but you go to the Auburn game. He throws what should have been a pick to Zacoby McClain to actually end the game, goes right through his hands, lands in Watermeyer's hands. I think, look, Jimbo's a quarterback. Quarterbacks that end up being coaches want to throw the ball at the end of the day. And with Haynes King, I love that kid. I like Calzada too. I think he has a chance. They're two different guys. I think Jimbo wants that dual threat ability that Kellen had. Because again, it's not is he going to run it? It's that he can run it, and you can't account for that guy. So don't be surprised if Texas A&M continues the momentum. I think Auburn's a crapshoot, but I always think, and I'll say this, not just because I'm on your show, Blake, but I think LSU does better as the outsider. I think they're a lot like Auburn.
I do too.
And I would not be surprised. I think Max Johnson's going to win the job. And I know Ed Orgeron is pissed. And at the end of the day, there's nothing that motivates a guy like Ed O'Moore or an 18 to 22-year-old kid, because there's talent all over that roster other than being embarrassed. And I think they're going to have the chip on the shoulder. They'll have the videos playing in the weight room. And at the end of the day, I think LSU will have a chance to come back and not have an elite year, but have a better year than what they had and really build toward what I think could be a huge year 2 years down the road.
I agree with you. And, LSU faced Missouri and Connor Bazelak in that first start. And JBoy, I came on this show for the entire week and said, please, love God, for the love of God, do not discount Connor Bazelak. I thought that kid threw some dimes. I like Drinks too, man. I think that, as goofy as people made fun of him for signing that 3-star a couple seasons ago, I'm like, hey, man, he was pumped up because stars didn't really matter. He got the guy that he wanted. And quite honestly, that guy caught a touchdown pass against LSU. So, I mean, we'll have to see. I agree with you there. Let's look into – and I know that we talked about Alabama a little bit and possibly LSU advancing. They replaced a lot like LSU did after the 2019 season. I'm not going to discount Alabama. I mean, how can we? Do you think it's still going to be Alabama and everybody, like, they're just reloading, they're not rebuilding as always?
Well, I look at the depth that Saban has created, and at the end of the day, Blake, I think a lot of it rests on if a couple of these early enrollees on the offensive line, which it was smart to get them in early. That offensive line class they signed last year was absolutely elite. If some of those guys can get on that same page, they should have the physicality update, they should have the physical ability to be able to do it. My biggest question with Alabama, because I think Bryce Young's going to be really good, is that defense going to take the next step? And look, I understand offenses have changed. Schematically, you heard Saban the other day, saying giving up 20 points a game is a good thing nowadays, as opposed to it used to be. But I'm really interested to see how they come out of the gate, because against a team like Alabama that has all that talent, we know the wide receiver position, they lost a ton. Will they get their footing in the first couple games? I think Miami is the perfect test for them early. I think they're more talented than they are. But, I really believe this year the West is about as wide open as it's been in a while. And if you're going to get Bama, you better get them early, because if they get their footing, I really, really, really like the hire that they made. Obviously, losing Sarkisian, but you bring in a guy like Bill O'Brien. I mean, they've got a bunch of NFL head coaches that are position coaches. The craziest thing I've ever seen. He runs a rehab clinic for coaches. It's genius. Even their analysts are getting head Division I jobs. But you can never discount Alabama at the end of the day. But I'm very interested to see if there's a team in the West that can sneak up. Will it be LSU? Will it be A&M? Will it be Auburn? I think Auburn's a little bit deficient up front in the personnel department. Will Friend has his hands full, but I love the Brian Harsin hire. They went out of the box, and as a guy that's from Auburn, it's really surprising to me, and the first time that I've ever seen them go outside of the good old boy network to make a hire, and it may just work out.
You know, I was going to ask you about Auburn before we got to a surprise question I wanted to get to you. Let's talk about Auburn very quickly. They do go outside the box. They do go out west and get a guy from Boise State who's had a lot of success. A lot of people are writing off Auburn, saying that Bo Nix has to kind of put up or shut up. But I'm going to tell you something. What scares me the most, JBoy, is when nobody's talking about a team in the SEC West. It always feels like that team is either going to want to do one of two things. Either they're going to punch you in the mouth and they're going to surprise some people, or they might take a step back. With this Auburn team, what's your gut feel and what do you read on them moving forward into this upcoming season?
Yeah, well, you know, like you, Blake, I judge teams from the inside out, and you got to be able to do it up front. The rest will take care of itself. But to me, you know, this isn't the movies. In Star Wars, the rebellion beats the Death Star. That's not how it works in the SEC.
Right.
To go up against the Death Star that's been built at Alabama and been built at Georgia, you got to build your own Death Star. And I think that's what Brian Harsin brings. Not saying he's a CEO, but he understands the importance of building up that recruiting department. And Blake, let me give you the craziest stat outside of Gonzaga winning 26 straight games by double-digit points. Auburn had not signed a high school offensive tackle since 2017. Let me say that again. They hadn't signed an offensive tackle out of high school since 2017. There are 5 junior tackles on the roster. That's disgusting. The two most important things in college football, you can ask Nick Saban this, you can ask Moses this, it doesn't matter. It's recruiting, number one, and roster structure, number 2. And that was Gus Malzahn's biggest weakness, was that roster was not structured to win long term. And if Brian Harsin and Will Friend, I love Mike Bobo. A lot of people didn't like the Mike Bobo hire, but he is perfect for what Bo Nix needs. He needs to start going under center some, to take the launch point, to start changing a little bit from the defensive end. I think 8-4 would be a hell of a year. You look at the schedule, even though you get Alabama and Georgia at home, they're already behind the 8-ball talent-wise. You got to go to A&M. You got to go to Arkansas. But I like the hire long-term. This first year, and everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to win a ton of games early. This is about the culture. This is about the foundation. It's about signing high school offensive linemen, and it's about putting your hand in the ground and, damn it, lining up and hitting somebody in the teeth, because that's what wins in the SEC West. That's what Auburn didn't have last year. You can't win a fist fight with a handful of pillows, and I think they understand that.
As a former offensive lineman, hosts start smiling when you talk great offensive line play. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm just going to throw that. We have some fan questions here. Craig Schilling wants to know, hashtag Ask JBoy, are you hiding in the car because you've been so hot with your picks and everybody's trying to find you?
Man, you know, to be honest with you, I just got out of a meeting. Typically, I'd love to be at the studio, but I couldn't turn this one down. And no, seriously, I am hiding from everyone. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, you know, we've been really hot, and to be honest with you, college football is really my bag. This college basketball stuff, we've just been on a heater. But again, Blake Ruffino comes calling. I'm going to answer, whether it's in the car or on the top of the Great Wall of China, man.
I appreciate that. One more, and then we'll get to the surprise question. Ask JBoy from Lonnie. Baylor and Gonzaga are after the class, the field, but I think the Zags are definitely in a class of their own this year. If those two teams match up, JBoy, I mean, it's going to be a clash of the Titans, 2 of the best teams that we thought of all year. If that is the matchup, what do you think what's going to happen there?
Well, it's a great question, and they're on a collision course. They've been on since we started this tournament. The thing I'll say about Baylor is, if you watch Gonzaga, everybody talks about Jalen Suggs, but that offense runs through Drew Timme, especially early. I'm very interested to see.
Uh-oh. I think we lost. Let's see. JBoy, you're kind of breaking up just a little bit, bud.
Game down against Gonzaga to get him out of running, just to turn it ugly. But I'll tell you this, Blake. The Davion Mitchell versus Jalen Suggs matchup is must-see TV. And I'll be honest with you, I'm in this kind of pool with this radio station I go on, and I got to pick. I was second to pick. The first guy picked Gonzaga. I picked Baylor to win a TV, so I'm hoping Baylor wins. But if Gonzaga turns into a track meet, they're very, very tough to beat. Lonnie, that's a fantastic question, man.
All right, last question, JBoy, and we'll get you out of here. I know that you're very busy. We got some Final Four and basketball that we got to look forward to. I always notice that you're wearing these Atlanta Braves hats. And as a big Yankee fan, I feel like those two teams can be on a collision course. Tell me about your Braves. How excited are you for opening day next week?
Man, well, as a former college, I'll be honest with you, I just moved to Atlanta. I'm a huge Braves fan. Haven't been to the new park. I went to the Battery the other day, and it was like Chuck E. Cheese for me, man. I was like Chuck E. Cheese for adults. But I'm so excited. You know what? I'll say this. I'm just excited for us to kind of get back to some sort of normalcy. And I think baseball is going to start to bring us in there a little bit. You look at some of these teams, and I'm not talking politics or whatever, but we're a very competitive country, and we enjoy our sports and going to the games. And I'm so excited to see that baseball thrown. Spring training's fun, but I'll say this. Braves, can we please just do something in the playoffs? Y'all ripped my heart out and showed it to me last year in the playoffs. Hopefully this year they can do something.
I think that they will. And look, my brother lives out in Woodstock, Canton area. He has a restaurant out there. So, JBoy, we greatly appreciate you coming on the show. I'm going to get you set up for you can go over there anytime, set up there. If you guys want to do that,
that'd be huge.
We'll get you all set up there, man. So I greatly appreciate you joining the show. And tell everybody from AYS where they can find all your stuff and everything that you guys are doing.
Definitely. Well, Blake, man, it was an honor to come on, dude. I love your stuff. You do a heck of a job. Hope I can come on again. I got to get you on the JBoy show, man. We got to do a home and home. But yeah,
Absolutely.
You can find us. We got a brand new YouTube channel just started a couple weeks ago. It's the JBoy Show, as you've seen spelled on there. We're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go subscribe. We have a lot of fun. I don't talk politics. We talk every sort of sport. We got Marcus Spears coming on Thursday. I know your fans will like that. Talking some LSU. He's excited about what's
going on. Baby.
Oh, the big swagoo, baby. I love Marcus. We got head coach of South Carolina, Shane Beamer, coming on, and some more big stuff. We talk the major three sports. But like I said, Blake, I really appreciate it, man. And hopefully we can do this again soon.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon, bud. Thank you very much.
Definitely, buddy. Talk to you later.